What's up, world? Second Al Calvin, I'm back with another fresh load, and these things ain't much been touched yet. But before I put some quinine and neat on these things, let me be the first to say none of my videos are here to promote any negativity or violence. All my visuals are for entertainment purposes only. Also, I want to thank all my subscribers. I really do appreciate y'all for rocking with me from day one. Also, to my new subscribers, I definitely double salute y'all. We're going to go ahead and get to the table and start sacking up this good shit. Today's visual is called The Miami Boys and Flower Man. All right, most of y'all already know the backstory to why we left Miami and how we end up traveling to Rochester, New York. If y'all ain't familiar with that, I made some videos called Calvin Pratt Frenemies. Y'all go back and look at them. Y'all go like them shits. And those videos explain the whole situation why we left. But I'm going to give y'all the short of it. And this is going to align with the video that I'm doing today. So in 1989, me and my guy, we had a little situation with some brown sub niggas. I want to say rest in peace to my friend Pratt. One time for my guy, G-Man. Well, in 1989, me and my nigga, we happened to just run into these dudes, and we had a little situation. And they was part of the reason why we left Miami in 1989. But a few years before that situation popped off, me and my dude, we was working on 56th Street. Between 7th Court and 7th Avenue. And we was working for the old Coon Midnight. I want to say one time for my OG Midnight. That's my guy right there. Real good dude. Well, we was on his line in like 1986, 1987. And during this year, my dog, his uncle was getting like a whole lot of fucking money in Rochester, New York. And he used to come down like twice a month to grab. Like in the mid-80s. And each trip, he was grabbing like 15. So it was safe to say he was grabbing like 30 a month. Now, I know y'all may say, well, 30, that ain't nothing. Well, what made his situation so interesting was, like I mentioned in my other videos, he was putting a Kia Cut on every Kia Raw. So he was turning them 30 into 60. Okay, to make it even more interesting was he was breaking everything down. He wasn't selling no weight. Up there in Rochester, he had maybe like 3-4 gates. You know, down in the crib, we call them spots. Up in New York, they call them gates. So he had like a dime gate that sold all dimes. He had a 20 gate, a 30 gate, and like a 40 gate. And them spots was making no less than like 15 a day, but the most they was making was like 70 or 80,000 a day. Real shit. So he was coming to grab like twice a month. And every time he would come down to grab, he'd slide through 56th Street where me and my nigga was hustling at. And he would try to, you know, get us to come to Rochester. Y'all need to come to New York. Man, it's different. Y'all need to come to New York. He used to always try to, you know, get us to go. But we would never want to like move. Because, you know, back then it was all about Miami. Everybody wanted to come to the crib. Even though a lot of our comrades from high school, they was already up the road getting money. Like in, you know, of course, Atlanta, you know, Jayville, all through Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, DC, Virginia, Carolina. Them niggas was like everywhere getting money. You know, me and my dog, we just ain't want to leave. So now we fast forward to 1989 and we run into a situation with those guys out of Brown Sub. Now, coincidentally, during the same time we bump heads with them niggas, my dog, other cousin, he come from Rochester. He come down because he used to be beating the road up for the uncle who was getting all this fucking money. So when the cousin come down, he kind of get in our chest and kind of give us the layout of Rochester. But he don't know what we got going on with these brown sub niggas. So I remember 3 things that stuck out that kind of swayed us to, eventually leave. One of the things he told us was it was no Miami boys in the town. We were like, damn, okay, that's a plus. Okay, that's a check. Because, we know wherever Miami boys went at, they kind of, they kind of burnt the town out wherever we went at. So that was like kind of a plus for us if it wasn't no Miami niggas in the town. So, and then the second thing he told us was that all the young niggas in the town was gang banging. He was like, man, it ain't like Miami. He was like, man, you go up there, all the young niggas, they fighting, they gang banging, they jumping niggas. He said, man, they on that type of time. So we're like, okay, damn. Okay, that's another check. Okay, all right. So the needle kind of moving. But the third thing he told us was, which we didn't believe, he told us was that it was no crack in the town. So when he told us that, we were like, man, nah, nigga, you fly. Because, we know crack was everywhere. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, nah, I'm telling y'all, there's no crack in Rochester, New York. So we were like, well, damn, man, you got New York City. Crack was flooding all the 5 boroughs over there. Crack was flooding the whole nation. How crack ain't in this town? He was like, man, crack is just not there, dog. So that situation with them brown sub niggas, that shit that kind of blew by, and we make our way to Rochester, New York. So the first street we land on was, of course, Conkey Avenue. Everybody know about Conkey. I mentioned Conkey Avenue in all my visuals. But we happen to be on a side street off Conkey called Carthage. Now, the first day we get there, we land on Carthage. One of my dogs, somebody in his family was kind of messing with this old coon, this old nigga that was getting a little change. And the house we parlayed at, it was his gate. And, he was making a little bread. We didn't really know the logistics of it, but we know he was getting like a little money out the house. Now, we like 1 or 2 days in. So now, me being on my Miami shit, me and my dog, we kind of put the play together and figured out, well, nigga, you old, you washed up, you don't deserve this. We here now, you got to move around. We taking this, on our Miami shit. So eventually we take the spot from him, make him get somewhere. Okay, we here now. This our gate. This our spot. But from the rip, the first thing we noticed was it was a breakdown spot. And coming up there breaking shit down was really not in the equation for us. We left that shit in the rear view when we left Miami. Our intention was to come to the town and push all type of weight. But this old guy, he had like a breakdown spot, and he was making maybe $3,000-4,000 a day. He was selling all down. So we were like, damn, okay. So now nigga gotta backpedal and start breaking shit down. The second thing we noticed was about this spot was he was selling all powder. So now that kind of aligned with what my dog cousin was telling us before we got there, like it was no crack. But it took for us to see this shit ourselves. So the old coon, he had like a damn spot selling all powder. And we were seeing all of the bases coming through. There was, coming to cop the dimes, and they was going home. And we were thinking like, damn, man, this shit is impossible. There's no way it ain't no crack in this town. Y'all bear with me because I'm going somewhere with this. So we was noticing, now we got to get to the table. We got to, put it out there. We got to cut the coke up and bag it up and do all that shit that we really ain't had no intentions on doing. So the bases, they would come grab the coke, and I'm finna give you the play-by-play how they was doing it up there. The bases would come grab the coke, the dime powders. It was snowing at the time when we got there. Come in the snow, come grab, go home, They'll take the down powder and they'll dump it in these tubes. You know how when you go to go see your primary doctor, go to the hospital and get blood work, and you know how they draw your blood and they put it in these tubes and they cap the tubes off and they send them off to labs. Well, the town was full of these little tubes about the size of a finger. They'll dump the coke in these tubes and they'll put a little water in these tubes and they'll put the little tube over a gas stove. And they'll kind of cook the coke up in these little tubes. Now, once the coke start cooking up, they'll stick a piece of metal inside, or they'll stick a hanger inside these tubes, and the coke will lock up around the piece of hanger or the piece of metal. Once it lock up, they'll take the hanger out and they'll scrape the cooked up coke off the piece of metal and put it on a piece of foil or a can or a pipe, and they'll smoke it. So me and my dog, we looking at each other like, it can't be. This shit can't be true. That shit is too time consuming. There's no way they going through all that just to get high. Because, you know, we was used to the bases in Miami coming to grab and, you know, cop and go. You get what I'm saying? They, you know, once they come in Miami and the bases go to the spot in Miami and grab boulders, as soon as they get out the spot, they firing off. You know, or when they get home, boom, off rip. They putting it on the pipe and they firing off and they doubling back, coming to grab more. Like, you know, down there, you know, and all around the world, ain't nobody had time to be going home, cooking it up, doing all that. But it was a different situation for Rochester. They really was going through all that. So me and my dog, we sat back and we were like, man, there's no way, dog. It's no way. It's like it ain't no crack in this town. But, you know, it wasn't. Now, it was some Brooklyn niggas in the town, and it's safe to say, I'm sure them Brooklyn niggas probably try to do the same thing, but it's just nowhere in the town. It was just all powder spots throughout the whole town, and the town was getting a whole lot of fucking money. I told you about my dog, uncle who he was a millionaire. He was a millionaire like 4 or 5 times over. This nigga was really eating. So we was like, damn, all right. So we were like, okay, well, this is what we go do. We finna go ahead and we finna, you know, run it up and test the market and put some hard out there. So we eventually flush out this pipe shop. And this pipe shop is very imperative to the whole Miami Boys movement, because later on in the years, Killer Black and this lady who owned the pipe shop, they would get real close, and, you know, she would be our go-to person to get all our beakers and triple beams and all the other shit that we used to do. But anyway, we stumble up on the pipe shop. We meet the lady and we tell her what we need. Of course, she ain't had none of this shit in stock. She had to order all this shit. She had to order the beakers, the triple beams, and all the, like, the no taste, no smell cut, this, that, and third, because we gave her, you know, strict instructions on what we needed. So like a week go by, she get all this stuff in. She hit us up. We go through, we grab everything. All right. You know, being from the crib and being, you know, a cook that I always was, you know, I get my kitchen on. So I go ahead and I drop some glass. Not that much. You know, I probably just cooked up a cookie just to try to test the market and see what it do. So every time the bases will come grab a dime powder, you know, a nigga go ahead and give him like a boulder. Like, man, y'all go ahead and take this. So they knew what it was, but, you know, from the shit that they seen on TV, but they was fighting it. They was fighting. Nah, man, we don't want that. Y'all trying to make us out of crack monsters and this, that, and the third, and y'all putting all type of ammonia and chemicals in the coke. You know, we rather do it ourselves. No, we don't have that up here. We don't want that up here. I mean, they fighting it. So maybe after a couple of weeks, we see they not biting. They don't want the hard. Okay, so now it's back to the basics, just sucking up all type of powder. Okay, so now maybe a year or two in, we eventually left the breakdown shit alone, and now we wide ass open with all type of sack. We pushing all type of weight. Eating, booming. I'm getting my recruit on. I'm bringing all type of niggas up. Y'all already know the backstory to that. So bunny hop to fast forward to 1991. Y'all already know I get knocked off in King Street, South Carolina. I made some videos about that. Y'all go back and watch them shits there. So before I go to King Street, you know, I got all type of everybody, all type of niggas up from the crib. We good now. We mobbed up. I get knocked off in King Street. I make my way back to New York. Okay, so now around about this time, we got gates. We got like 4 or 5 gates on both sides of town. Now, on the west side, we got 2 8-ball spots over there. Y'all already know we got one on Jefferson, we got one on Jefferson, and then we got one on Brown. Now, I want to say rest in peace to my guy, T.Y. T.Y. had the west side on lock. He was running them shits over there. Everybody loved T.Y. I want to say rest in peace to my nigga. And then on Conky, of course, we was moving all type of ounces, booming. No less than 35, no more than 45, 50 ounces a day, going for like 12 to 1300. That shit was going, you know, the receipts were stupid. And then naturally, me and my guy, we moving 500s and whole units personally. So we got the whole thing going. Now, like a half a mile away from Conky, you got Dread them over there on Hudson. And he got all his Largemont niggas over there. I did a whole story on him. I want to say rest in peace to Dread. He was all right. Okay. Now, on the west side with T.Y. over there, unbeknownst to me and my dog, T.Y. is force feeding crack on the west side. Now, we don't know none of this. You know, because T.Y. from the crib, you know, Overtown, Carol City, Largemont legend. T.Y., he know what it is, and he a chef. So he over there, he experimented with it. It's safe to say T.Y. was probably one of the first niggas, you know what I'm saying, to really force feed it on them in the town. Now, on our side of town, you got Dread. Dread, he testing the market because round about this time, Dread, he booming with the weed. I mean, he got $1 million spot with the weed, but then he see how we eating off the coke. You know, he want to, you know, go ahead and kind of transit and kind of cross over and transition into the coke. So he coming through me, I'm going through my auntie. I'm feeding Dread all type of blocks. All right, but then Dread, you know, he experimented with the crack on that side. But we don't know none of this. So this where the plot thickens at.